All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning. We have a very exciting topic today. This is the Building Outdoor Communities Spring Webinar Series, and this is session 2 of 4. We just got one other one that I'll tell you about later. The title for this is Lessons Learned from Rutherford Bound, and I'm so excited to introduce you. I mean, I know a lot of you know him, but Don Cason, who is the Executive Director of the Rutherford County Tourism Development Authority. There we go. There's a nice picture of him that I took on the Thermal Belt Rail Trail. So Don has really been influential in the planning and implementation of Rutherford Bound, which is a tourism infrastructure master plan created by Destination by Design, and it was released in summer of 2018. So we're about 5 years in the implementation, and this topic, when I sent out surveys 6 months ago, there were multiple people that asked to learn more about how did they do that? So that is really the genesis. We've been talking about this for 6 months and getting Don on a webinar so he can share best practices, lessons learned. And if you're a community that's just beginning, you're in the planning phases of kind of pulling the stakeholders together, how do you really get from planning to implementation? So I'm so excited to turn it over to Don, and he's going to educate us all about what is going on in Rutherford County. So I'm going to unshare and let Don share his presentation. Oh, I need to make you all right, Don, you are a host, co-host. There we go.
Okay, Bradley, I want to thank you and the Building Outdoor Communities for asking for Rutherford Bound to share. It's an honor and a privilege on behalf of the Rutherford County Tourism Development Authority, Board of Directors, and Rutherford County community leaders. We just thank you for your interest. So yes, I am going to share with you today about Rutherford Bound and welcome all communities throughout Western North Carolina. I appreciate your interest in wanting to learn more about Rutherford Bound. But as Bradley mentioned, it has been a long process. We started our initial planning and meetings back in 2017, and we pretty much spent the first year and a half planning and visioning and pulling people together. And it's been an unbelievable process. And we've got all of our communities. We have 7 communities in Rutherford County that are active and involved, plus our county administration, our county government is involved. And then we have one more community that we will be bringing on here in the near future. But I guess I want to start out by saying, what is Rutherford Bound? Rutherford Bound is a countywide asset or tourism asset development plan. We basically are tourism development with anything from mountains to main streets. We have tourism related expenditures and capital infrastructure that we are putting in place and planning for. We have 3 regions throughout Rutherford County. We have the mountain region, which is mainly made up of Chimney Rock and Lake Lure. And the vision for Rutherford Bound in our mountains is natural environments and many outstanding outdoor recreation opportunities found, including boating, climbing, biking, camping, among many other things that we're creating in our mountain areas. Then we move over to our main streets, and the vision for the main streets, Rutherford Bound, is to expand the foundations that we have already laid out, whether it's historical or walkable main street communities, connectivity, the Thermal Belt Rail Trail, and the Purple Martin Trail. And then we break out into our countywide, and it's aimed at connecting our natural resources and community assets that are found throughout Rutherford County. That's the big component of where we're going. Currently today, we have 5 major projects that are completed. We have 4 smaller projects that are completed. Then what's exciting, we have 14 projects that we are planning and underway right now today. And we have over $16 million of funds that are committed for all of these since we've got started. Now, what I want to do through this now is I'm going to walk through a number of questions that we've been asked. We've been asked by a lot of people throughout Western North Carolina and the state, how, some of our questions that we get asked. And the biggest question is, how did you align the stakeholders to come together to, make Rutherford Bound a success? Well, we started out day one back in 2017. TDA brought together all of our community leaders. We brought in all the town managers and our town mayors. We brought in the hospital. We brought in real estate companies. We even brought in our county sheriff. We brought in the Outdoor Coalition, education, financial institutions. We brought in a big variety of people to kind of sit down at the table and just take a look at. And the question that the TDA asked all of our community leaders is, what does tourism in Rutherford County look like in the next 20 years? We had everybody kind of sit back and think about that. Well, in that meeting and in those number of meetings, the community basically said, we're not real happy with where we are and where we're going. So the conversation came up is, well, we need to put together a plan. Well, there was a number of communities and a number of people throughout the community that was saying, well, I don't know if we want to get into a plan. We have planned in the past. And the TDA asked the question, well, where are all of those plans? Well, the plans are sitting on shelves. They're sitting, collecting dust somewhere. And I said, well, why is that? Well, we kind of lose interest, takes too long to implement. And at the end of the day, there was no funds to implement. So the plans were sitting on the shelf. Well, our state legislature allows TDAs to put in up to 1/3 of their occupancy tax collections into funding for tourism related expenditures. So our TDA, the Rutherford County TDA, made the commitment to put in 1/3 of what we collect. Well, when we said that, all the towns, the county, and the community leaders said, well, now we have some money to start planning and implementing. So there came Rutherford Bound. All of those community leaders voted unanimously to do a strategic plan for tourism for the future of Rutherford County. And that's where Rutherford Bound was birthed, our mountains to main streets. So we developed a 20-year plan countywide. Well, the initial phases of Rutherford Bound was so successful that we then broke down and focused on a plan for each community. So those 7 communities and the county, we now have a strategic action plan, a 3-year action plan for each community, not just a whole county and everything rolled up into one. We have developed a 3-year action plan for each of those communities. And that's what we're in the middle of now. We're at the 3rd year of that now. So, but I want to also emphasize those action plans, we've developed a theme and a motto in our community. The option of doing nothing is not an option. You need to remember that. We have focused community leaders, everybody coming together, and we're focused on the option of doing nothing is not an option. And we have created a 5-year trail action plan just out in the county, throughout the county. We are focused on what kind of trails that we can do and present for Rutherford County. And we're having groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings throughout the county, and that's very exciting. Now, another question that we've been asked, what projects have been implemented since the action plan was adopted? I'm going to run through a couple of before and after shots and give you a little bit of background. But again, the biggest success started with planning, getting community leaders involved, stakeholders, getting them engaged. And then as you put together the plans, you create different projects. Well, we've got Rutherford Bound here. There is the list of 14 projects that are currently underway. That doesn't count the projects that are completed. So, but I'm just letting you know, here's what we have working with. And we've got Ellenboro Cotton Gin Park. We've got the Lake Lure Morris Park improvements, Chimney Rock, outdoor recreation. We're participating with our county and Forest City with our Legacy Soccer Park. Just many exciting programs that we've got, or projects that we're moving forward with. Okay, here's a before shot. This here, what you have before the strategic plan started, and we came up with the funding to help us. This here is Chimney Rock Plaza. This was the entrance to our waterway, our Riverwalk and Plaza. Well, this is what it looks like today after the plan, and this is what it looks like. So that is a completed project that we have in Chimney Rock. So moving on to Lake Lure, just to give you an example, in Lake Lure, we had a, this is an overview or overshot of what we had going on in our boardwalk in Lake Lure. Lake Lure walkway around the lake. We had, at this time, we had a walkway that was old and just needed some major improvements. Well, the strategic plan came around, worked with Lake Lure and their steering committee, and we developed what you have today. This is now enhanced boat slips, walkway around the lake, and just created some great infrastructure there for tourism there in Lake Lure. Now, this is here in Spindale. This is our future skate park and pump track that is located right off of the Thermal Belt Rail Trail in Spindale. Spindale is right at the halfway point of our 13.5 mile trail that comes right through, connecting 3 towns, really 4 towns it connects. And we're looking at enhancements up and down that trail. And here comes what we are going to be putting into a skate park pump track. All of the funding is almost committed, and we are designing and putting the final engineering touches on that project right now as we speak. So we're very excited about this enhancement to our Thermal Belt Rail Trail that we have coming. So we're excited about that. Also, new phase 2 projects that are underway that are currently being planned, engineered, and working on funding is the Chimney Rock Village Streetscape, Lake Lure Morris Park enhancements. Rutherford is in the process of developing a Norris Park disc golf. We're excited about the future of disc golf coming to Rutherford County and creating new tournaments there. And also, I mentioned to you already about the Spindale Skate Park and pump track, Forest City's Farmers Market, and Ellenboro Cotton Gin. But those are some of the main projects that we're really working hard on and diligently working to establish funding. Now, that's enough for the different projects that we have coming on. I'm going to move into, well, how does the TDA leverage its funds with the county? Because you may say, well, man, those are a lot of projects and you know, $16 million. Well, there's a strategy behind this. We're basically, the Rutherford Bound is, as we plan and engineer, we have funding in mind and how we're going to be able to work that. So over the, at this point, 7-year process, 2 years of planning and 4.5+ years of funding, we've been going after funding for the last 4.5 years. And the TDA has put in its 1/3. We started with $300,000 prior to COVID. Our 1/3 was $300,000 that the TDA could put into tourism related capital expenditures. Well, over the 5 years now, the TDA has put in almost $3.8 million. Well, that $3.8 million, our towns are matching that. And you'll see a little bit more here later, but all of our towns, all of the county, you're sitting back and working the plan and approving funding for the Rutherford Bound projects in their budgets, in their capital budgets every year for the last 4 years, they have put money. Well, That money is over $4.3 million. Well, we take the TDA 1/3 occupancy tax collections that we're able to put into that, and the town's monies and the county money, and match it for matching grants. We have almost $8 million worth of grants that have been come in. And then we also have private donations, miscellaneous donations of almost $300,000, which we plan to grow that number and work on that. We have an outside consulting firm helping us go after philanthropic donors. Again, at the end of the day, we're currently at over $16 million in Rutherford County that has been raised for Rutherford bound projects. And that's just been a very exciting process, and where we are today. Again, here's a recap. We're going after every state, federal, and private funding that we can think of and imagine. We have a theme here in Rutherford County. We will leave no rock left unturned, and we're researching and looking for days or ways to fund our tourism related expenditures throughout the community. Now, one other thing I want to mention here is every one of our capital improvement projects throughout the county that is tourism. Yes, you focus on tourism related, but every one of our projects are quality of life projects in Rutherford County. Every one of our citizens get to enjoy every one of these projects that we're working on. So that's exciting because you're able to have the opportunity to help and improve your community and create infrastructure and things that help with the quality of life of your citizens. And that brings to mind also another thing. When you build a better place to live, work, and play, you build a place people want to visit. So what is the most exciting part of this work that is here? Well, I guess how I would answer that question is, and it's been from day one, is the vision of seeing people at our community come together and work together. I mean, the amount of people that are working together is very rewarding. Okay, so that's exciting. But the other exciting part of this is all of this planning and all of this collaboration. What it's creating is groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. That's exciting. And I'm going to scroll through here real quick and just show you some of the projects and some of the visuals of some of the improvements that we've made throughout the community. That's the Thermal Belt Rail Trail, RHI Legacy, a large foundation in our community helped build the trail, but the TDA gave money to help build that bridge and this is just outside of Forest City. This is an enhancement along our Thermal Belt Rail Trail, some green space, and had our kids in the school system be able to do the artwork to kind of, I'll just be honest with you, cover some of the visual pollution up and down our Thermal Belt Rail Trail. We've got hiking trails throughout the county, and we're also creating a Year of the Trail. Yes, the Year of the Trail is in the state, but we have formed a committee in Rutherford County that will focus on all of our all of our trails throughout the county, and we want to build and develop more trails, and we are in the process of doing that now. And every year will be the Year of the Trail in Rutherford County. There's a snapshot of where everything that's going on in Rutherford County, the different trails. And now I'm going to scan through and give you some of the acknowledgements and the participants throughout our community that was very involved in all of our projects. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this at the first, but I want to let you know that this process, yes, we're at a point where it's been very rewarding for our community, but it takes a lot of work. And we had to, the TDA funded and brought on, there's multiple companies out there that can do this work, but without the work and efforts of Destination by Design, who came together and really helped us coordinate and plan and implement, you community leaders are going to need somebody to come out and come in and help you organize and facilitate the efforts. And, but we've had community leaders, we've had our TDA boards, we've had major input throughout our county. And I guess the theme behind that is those who write the plan will help you underwrite the plan. And that's exactly what has happened. Everybody that helped visualize and give us the plan and where we were going has jumped on board and helped us come up with funding. Our municipalities that have helped us write the plan has jumped on board. Our county government, from our county commissioners and everybody that from the public office, our stakeholders, everybody has agreed 100% to approve Rutherford Bound, and are putting in all of those community leaders, the county commissioners and our different towns and municipalities vote every year to the past 4 years and the foreseeable future continue to put capital dollars in their budgets to implement Rutherford Bound. So that's pretty exciting. And so I guess I could go on forever, and I'm just so appreciative of the interest that Building Outdoor Communities and you have in what successes are at Rutherford Bound. I don't want to underestimate how much work and collaboration is involved, but it is a lot of work. And I guess one question we get is, if we're at ground zero or in the process, what advice do we have to bring to stakeholders to get them to the table? And where do you start? Well, basically you start with planning and bringing people together and making sure you emphasize and promote the option of doing nothing is not an option. That is the biggest thing that we have pushed and said, that no matter what happens, and back to that note, when I said early on, our community has said, well, Don, funding is an issue with all of what we, as reasons a lot of our plans have kind of sat on the sideline. Well, that's when the TDA stepped to the plate, and so appreciative of our TDA board that said, well, let's put 1/3. The state legislature allows us to put up to 1/3 into this plan and implement. So we started with that. Again, $300,000 of Oxby tax collections back in 2018 is now turned into over $16 million of capital improvements and tourism related expenses. And basically, when you work together and you collaborate and you build a better place to live, work, and play, you build a place people want to visit. So back to where you would start, I think those are the concepts. Here's our Oxy tax guidelines and legislation. We can use up to 1/3 for tourism related expenses. And that's where we started with the TDA and bringing community leaders together. And I think to give credit to all of Rutherford County leadership, we were ready for a change and knew we had to do something. And now we're working together, and it's been very successful because now we are creating, as I mentioned to you, we're creating groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings throughout the county. That's very exciting. And it does, and there are quality of life for our citizens, which is going very well. So having said that, I do not want to ramble because I could keep doing that. I'm very excited about Rutherford Bound and the leadership here in Rutherford County and where we're going and how we're working together. Every community is different. So if there's anything that Rutherford County can do to assist or give input on in your local communities, we'll be more than glad to do that. I know Bradley has all my contact information, and I know I've got towns in our county would be glad to share the pros and cons and the good and the bad through the process and be able to help you in any way we can. And I hope you can tell Rutherford County and myself, I absolutely love Western North Carolina and want to do anything that we can do to help Western North Carolina become a better place to visit. And it's just an awesome place in the Southeast and throughout the country. I can't imagine a better place to live, work, and play than Western North Carolina. So having said that, I'm wrapping up with my presentation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions or see what we need to do. So Bradley, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Don. That was really inspiring. And yeah, it's just amazing to see the effort that really went in the beginning, right? And it's not, I know you told me earlier, it's not just, it seems like it's all great right now, but there was a lot of work that happened, planning and organization and bringing stakeholders to the table in order to start to get to the implementation that you're at today. So I feel free, if there's anyone that would like to unmute and ask Don a question, we can do that. And David, would you say that Don answered your question about the 1/3?
I believe so, but I was just going to make sure I was clear that the Rutherford County TDA is committing 1/3 of its occupancy tax revenues to non-marketing purposes.
Yes. And we're creating that 1/3 to tourism-related capital expenditures, hiking trails, biking trails, walkways, greenways, so forth. So, but yes, and the key is we're committing 1/3 to our tourism-related capital expenditures. Yes.
And maybe if you could speak a little bit to how that process of how, I guess, the various local governments agree to splitting that revenue up regarding the spending. Is there a specific process you have for that?
Well, and I don't know how unique we are to Rutherford County, but the process here is our 6% occupancy tax that is collected countywide. There's no, of those 7 municipalities that I told you about, our TDA represents the entire county. And we work really hard to represent all of the municipalities in the county in one swell soup, and covering the marketing and promotion and all that. So we do that. So therefore we take that 1/3 also and put that in. And it's funny you mentioned that, because all of those communities came together, and that was an issue. We've got different, from being all over the county, all the municipalities in the community voted unanimously to evenly divide up that 1/3 equally and fairly. So everybody takes that 1/3 and uses that towards all of their different projects. Now, in order for funding to go to Rutherford bound projects, the projects in each of the municipalities has to be a part of our plan, and they have to be matching those dollars. And that's why when I showed you that one slide where, we had, you almost had equally divided with how much the TDA has put in compared to the municipalities. That's because for these projects to move forward, the towns and the county have to match what the TDA puts in. And then we go after grants and philanthropic givers and other stakeholders and stuff to help fund the gaps that we have in that. But again, it's 1/3 that we are, and we're as focused on putting the 1/3 back into communities as we are focused on the 2/3 for marketing.
Great, thanks. Yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering, and good to hear the kind of collaborative process amongst the different municipalities.
Yes, yeah, it's been awesome. And again, the other key to this, our communities knew we had to focus and develop our tourism capital, that our tourism product needed as much or more development and more needed than what we did for marketing. So that's the key to this also, is knowing that your communities want to grow in product as well as knowing you got to do the marketing.
Hey, David. Oh, sorry, Jake, really quick. David, can you just introduce yourself and say who you're with so everyone has a reference?
Oh, yes, I apologize. David McCrae with the North Carolina Department of Commerce under the North Carolina Appalachian Regional Commission program. And then I'm also co-leading the Creating Outdoor Recreation Economies, which is an outdoor recreation oriented strategic planning process that we are working on statewide, doing very similar strategic planning work that Rutherford Bound is doing, that Building Outdoor Communities is doing. That was largely based on the work that Made by Mountains has been working on for the past several years.
Okay. Well, great.
Thanks,
Great
David.
to have you. Yeah.
Jake, and then I'll go to the chat.
Sure. This is Jake. I'm up in Yancey County. We're just in our second month of the process. But you talked about the funding really well, Don, and I appreciate that. But I'm a little bit curious about some of the land acquisitions, or, as you build your trails, how do you work with landowners up there to get right of ways or easements or to outright purchase properties?
Well, and again, we have a separate committee, and matter of fact, DVD is also helping us with that. But we have a separate committee that is working with the landowners and stuff. So yes, that is part of the process. And yes, it's very tedious. There's no shortcuts in working with landowners and that so forth. So, so that is a process. I think if we continue to grow in that area and want to do more and more trail development stuff, we may look at hiring somebody full-time to help drive that. But right now we're contracting with DVD to help us move that process through. But we have a great committee with our own community leaders, but we also got a number of outdoor committees that are helping us fund and do different things on those trails. We got a lot of volunteers that are doing that, but the TDA is putting specific oxy tax collection dollars into that. For instance, we put 250 in the year of the trail. We designated $250,000 to all of our trails throughout Rutherford County, and that trail committee is taking those dollars and determining what's the best way and the most impactful way to create the trails that we need in Rutherford County in the year of the trail. But we are hoping to at least designate $100,000 a year to that trail committee going forward, but then they will have to continue to match with grants and so forth with these trails.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that, Don. And just some other general information for you, Bradley, just to let you know, not all counties have that same access to the 1/3 of their funds. Yancey's occupancy tax legislation was written back in the 80s, and we can only spend it on promotion. And the legislature at this time, they did pass some last year, but they're not real open to changing it for us, at least right now.
Don, if I can add to Don's comments about trails real quick, Bradley.
Can you
Steve
introduce
Garrison.
yourself, Steve?
No, I'd rather not. I like
Mhm.
anonymity. Steve Garrison, County Manager for Rutherford County. The Thermal Belt Rail Trail actually is a unique opportunity for us because it's actually rail banked through the Surface Transportation Board, and it's under the auspices of the Rutherford Rail Development Corporation nonprofit. So that's actually the governmental entities that are on that trail, 4 or 5 local governments that make up that entity. So anyway, point being, Thermal Belt Rail Trail is 13.5 miles, and it's all part of a rail corridor. So that really helped us tremendously to repurpose that for trails, which it either has to be active rail or Surface Transportation Board will allow that to be used for trail systems. So that's what we did. And so the good thing there, you're not having to look at right-of-way issues, encroachments, and still something you look at going forward as far as people wanting to. But at the end of the day, the Rutherford Rail Development Corporation owns a corridor. So that made our job a whole lot easier to get that trail up and running. Just sort of a unique opportunity for us.
Thanks, Steve. I'm going to move to the chat for a question. BD, can you introduce yourself? If you're there. The question, Don, is if a municipality doesn't participate 1 year, do you carry over the money?
Yes, we have. Good question. Yes, all of our projects can't be done in 1 year, and we knew that. So we're giving each, the towns can roll over up to 3 years of projects. And that's why we have the 3-year plan. So yes, they can roll the funding that we have in 3 years. And if they came, and we have a tourism advisory committee that oversees this process. And if they came to if a particular municipality came to the tourism advisory committee, then and asked for an extension, I'm sure the advisory committee would do that too. But the TDA has purposely empowered a separate advisory committee to help focus on the community and what projects should be moving and how they should be moving. The TDA didn't want to dictate to any of our communities what had to be done. We're just a facilitator, but it's up to our towns and our counties to drive their future.
Thanks, Don. All right, we have Alex Smith from Equinox Environmental. Don, which parts of the plan do you think every WNC county would benefit from the most?
Without completely understanding what the concept is, but as far as, I think all components of the plan, I mean, we started out by coming in and sitting around the table and planning. And we agreed the plan needed collaboration and working together and needed funding. So we basically, the collaboration and working together and the planning was crucial. And I think with the commitment of our community saying that we needed to move forward, and basically, as I mentioned to you, the option of doing nothing was not an option. We were coming together to get something done. And so therefore the funding that was on the table, we planned with implementation and funding already in place and in mind. So I think that process has served very well to us. And as far as what component was best and more important, I don't know if I can put my finger on anything that was more important, except for the overall collaboration and working together.
Can I add a couple of comments to that as well?
Of course.
Thank you. Don, I appreciate Don Cason being on, but Don has single-handedly really shifted our economy from, making it more diverse. Tourism has always been a big opportunity here, especially with Lake Lord, Chimney Rock being some of the bigger tourism opportunities in West North Carolina. But I think he's really helped all of the local governments and communities to try to reevaluate what our opportunities are. And I think that's really important. And I appreciate his leadership and his ability to use tourism dollars in a way to help us build our assets. I think what we're doing now is really, it's recognizing how important it is that you do invest those dollars in your tourism assets, because the more you invest in your tourism assets to build those up to grow your tourism economy, then of course, the more that pulls in as far as tourism dollars. It's a give and take. And I think for us, it's been so critical to evaluate the tourism in the way, especially the formulary, the way it works right now. Love to see that modified to where we can do even more investment. I think for Rutherford County, we're a tier 1 economically distressed county under NC Commerce rules. And for us, it's really critical that we have access to those dollars in partnership with TDA to continue to build on the opportunities that exist that need that influx of revenue dollars from occupancy taxes to rebuild this economy around improving our assets. So I think that's what's really critical as you look at your tourism opportunities working with TDA in that partnership. Thanks again, Don.
Thank you, Steve.
Don, well, one thing that he said to me before this call, and I know you said this to me in the past, is like, there really needs to be someone that wakes up every day and is thinking about this from an implementation standpoint. And Don really has been that person for Rutherford County. It doesn't necessarily have to be the TDA directing it, but the TDA should definitely be on board if it's a amazing revenue option. And, you know, if everyone agrees. I know that Wilkes County, we have some North Wilkesboro people on the call. They just shifted to a countywide TDA recently in the last couple of months. Does anyone from there, I don't know who's on the call. Does anyone want to share how that process has been in the last couple of months? If not, that's totally okay.
But Brad, I will say this, I appreciate you bringing that up because, yes, Rutherford County's TDA has been the driving force behind this. And our TDA staff and board wake up every day and focused on how we can keep Rutherford Bound moving. So I don't want to, that's a great point you made. I don't want to say, hey, it has to be the TDA. But like you said, the TDA does need to be on board and someone does need to have that focus each and every day to keep the process moving. So good point. Thank you for reminding me of that.
So of all the projects you shared with us today, what are you most excited about happening, like coming up in the next couple of months?
I would say, again, this whole process creates groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. So that's what I'm most excited about. We've got paddle trail groundbreakings coming up real soon. We've got the Spindale Skate Park that's going to be right along the Thermal Belt Rail Trail. That groundbreaking should come up real soon. So again, it's kind of like I said earlier, I'm just excited about all of our communities coming together and creating projects. We're right now, just today, we were out in Ellenboro, and Ellenboro is one of our smallest communities that are probably, I mean, all of our communities have tourism, but if you look at Ellenboro, they may have the least amount of tourism, but we're working together and they're creating a farmer's market / museum for a whole cotton gin. And the citizens out there said, hey, we want to be a part of this. So, I mean, I guess the excitement that is excited all throughout the county is probably the biggest blessing that Rutherford County's been blessed with. It's just the collaboration and working together. So a lot of prayers have been answered just by everybody working together.
And what a cool way to blend art and cultural heritage, you know, all these incredible historic buildings that are scattered throughout, whether they're from the textile industry or what have you. I mean, there's really cool opportunity to connect the trails to these assets and have them be an educational resource for tourists and visitors. Like, what a fun way for people that live there to come learn about the history too.
Yeah.
So that sounds really exciting.
Yes. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but if anybody wants more information to get a feel for all the different projects, rutherfordbound.com. You can see all of the projects that we have coming and going, the ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, and even the status of funding. And feel free, if you want to donate to Rutherford Bound, go to rutherfordbound.com. They're all tax deduction donations that you can make. So.
And Joanna did put that in the chat in the beginning. Maybe can you do that one more time, Joanna, for people that joined later?
Yes,
are there any other questions?
I will put that link in the chat again.
Thanks, Joanna. Any other questions as we kind of wrap up? I'm going to share a couple more slides just to close it out. Any other comments, Steve? All right.
Well, Brad, let me just wrap up by saying,
Yes.
hey, I want to thank you and Building Outdoor Communities and Made by Mountains, what you're doing for Western North Carolina. You're a breath of fresh air, and we really wish you much success in helping Western North Carolina become what we deserve as far as a better place to live, work, and play. We just thank you for your efforts there. And I want to thank you for inviting Rutherford County to present Rutherford Bound and what we've been able to accomplish here. We hope it can help other communities, and we're just, we're blessed to be in Western North Carolina, all of us.
Thank you so much, Don. It's a pleasure to connect the dots, right? It's just so interesting. There's a lot of inspiration happening all across the region, and we're very grateful that Appalachian Regional Commission is investing in us to do this work. This is really place-based economic development, and the quality of life it yields quality of life enhancement for all of us. So yeah, we hope to do more of this where we are showcasing best practices from across the region. So we can show that, look, if Rutherford County is doing it in my backyard over here, maybe we can do it too. Like, but the point is, it's a process, and you kind of have to start. And, we all love the quote, the option of doing nothing is not an option. So what's the option then? Let's do something.
Yep,
So
exactly.
we appreciate you, Don, for all your effort. And if
You're
anyone
welcome.
ever wants a tour, he gives a great tour of the assets. And I'll have to go on a new one soon. The next one with all the new stuff happening.
I want a tour via boat. I want to see it from the water.
Sounds good. All right, so let me just close it out here. So we have a couple trainings coming up, webinars. The next one's in May 15th. You've gotten an email about this, but we're talking all about funding, investment readiness, funding opportunities for outdoor infrastructure. Kim Williams and Spencer Finch are going to really boil down different federal and state opportunities to move the needle for outdoor infrastructure. And then in June, the Appalachian State team, John and Ash, who you all know by now, are going to give us an update on the initial analysis of the WNC Recreation Demand and Spending Survey, and kind of what they're working on behind the scenes to support the data piece and the economic impact piece that will support every community, every county across Western North Carolina. So, and then if you haven't already, the Outdoor Economy Conference Tier 1 tickets, the deadline is May 1st, and then the Tier 2 early bird is July 1st. So we're really excited. There's going to be a whole program track about building vibrant outdoor communities. All the participants in the Building Outdoor Communities program will gather, and we're going to have curated content for all of you that are in the program. So the 5th annual Outdoor Economy Conference in September. And that is all I have for you today. So we really appreciate your time. And if you have ideas for future webinars that you'd like to hear about, please email me. You know that we want these to be educational for everyone that joins. So again, thank you so much, Don. And if you've missed anything, there will be a recording that I'll send out in the coming weeks. So thank you all so much. And I hope you get out there and celebrate trails, like for Year of the Trail, and enjoy spring. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye, Brad.